we have around 250 investors in our network, and we connect potential startups to these mentors and get their ideas evaluated and help them to move to the next stage. Then the third part of it is incubate. So Native Lead has tied up with a lot of incubation cells through the EDI, wherein we help them to onboard potential startups and give them access to government grants and loans, and how to step by step go into this process. The fourth part, which Native Lead does, is we have an investing arm called Native Angels Network. It is through this organization that we do most of our investment activities. And we have right now invested around 11 startup ventures. And we have one exit out of them, which is Native Special. And 3 of our startups have moved on to their A series round. And we just concluded funding for a company called Sriveni Agritech, which is Mango Point. And we're looking at another fundraise in the month end. So this is what we do. So as part of this whole ecosystem, last year we launched our Startup Tamil Nadu program, which was the first initial program that we launched. So in this whole Startup Tamil Nadu program, what we want to achieve is to bring in 500 to around 700 registrations, and then move them through all the processes and get them funded. So now this year is our second edition of our startup program. So this startup program we do with coordination and tied up with the state government of Tamil Nadu. And a part of the startup program, what we are launching is a Thedal program. So through Thedal, what we do is engage with colleges and institutions and other organizations, and we let them know that we are doing something like this. And, we tell them how to come and register on this program and go through the whole process to receive funding. So I request Venkateshwari to just share a small PPT so that we can give you a step-by-step process of how we're going about it. Venki, can you just share the thing?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, shall we go after Andy Greaser's speech for a presentation?
Sure. Yes, let's start off. So request you to start off your session.
Okay.
Sir? Yes, sir.
Pleasure. Okay, it's my absolute pleasure to speak students today. I love that. In fact, I learn before I come to speak, I come prepared. So you help me learn more. Okay, as much as you learn, I believe that learning is a lifelong journey. So this helps me learn, keep me up to date, and also hopefully educate you at the end of the session. I think it'll run for about 30 to 45 minutes. So if you have any questions in the middle, don't hesitate to interrupt me. The intent of this talk is going to be, I'm a tech guy basically, right? So I'm going to be a little tech biased, meaning information technology biased, and some of my content, I don't know the exact audience, what backgrounds you're all from, but all of you would definitely touch IT, right? There's no one in this world who can survive without IT, particularly at least having a mobile phone, right? No one of us can live without it. And I think in some way you will benefit from it. And then I'm going to show some tips for career path, entrepreneurship. I mean, what I mean by entrepreneurship, some success stories that might inspire you. So I am confident that you're going to gain something out of this. So when I say your path to entrepreneurship, it's you, it's not mine. I'm not going to talk much about myself. So you can, if you have such questions, we can do that in the Q&A part. So Native Lead is the organization I'm representing. I have been involved in Native Lead for the last couple of years with a few investments that I've done. And I also grow along with it. You could always invest in the stock market, some companies. For example, you take Tesla. Tesla can, if you invested 2 years back, it can give you returns, anything, anyway, much more than Native Lead can. But the pleasure lies in getting to know the entrepreneur, getting to know the team, getting to know what they're doing, getting to know how they are pivoting to market conditions, how they are tumbling and getting up. Those are things that you learn when you deal with a organization like Native Lead and entrepreneurs directly, rather than invest in the stock market and keep quiet, right? Because what you get in the news in the stock market is all filtered, and you finally get things much later than what you would get when you deal with startups. So I have my own interest, and that's what I started off explaining to you. So there's a little pitch about my company that I work for. This is my full-time job. I run this company called Softsquare. I have been running for the last 13 years. We operate in the US, Canada, and the Asia Pacific regions. We forayed into India just recently. We have 2 clients. All we do is digital transformation, right? So we help customers transform their day-to-day paper, Excel, old database kind of systems into more automation, more workflows, more ways of reducing the dependence on humans always, right? So for example, if you have say a repair shop, right? So let's say you're a bike dealer and you want to take care of your repairs, your customer satisfaction. If you don't have an IT system, you will, so let's say someone calls with a complaint, you don't know what they bought from you. Only a few humans in the company, the owner and his close confidants, associates will know about the customer, right? So when you have a big operation, you need to have a system. You need to have Google Doc or Google Sheet is not enough to manage a larger organization. And that's where digital transformation, CRM, those things are needed. So some of these might bore you. So I just threw this thing just for your information. So one important thing here, CSAT. So that might be a curious term, right? Some of you might know. Customer satisfaction, right? So why do I put it in my slide? This is the same slide I take to my own customers or prospects when I sell services for my company. Why? Customer satisfaction is very, very prime, right? So when customers are not satisfied, they're not going to come back to you. So if VIT is a prime campus, not just because of education and the branding you have, it's customer satisfaction, how much you satisfy your students, right? Are they coming back to an ME program? Maybe not if they're not happy, right? So that applies to any organization. And so here I'm going to explain a little bit about what technology has made to this world in the last 400 years, right? So until the 1700s, I know there's a lot of stories about building like Taj Mahal, the Tanjai Periya Koil. There are wonderful things. The Ellora temples. There's so much in the middle part of India and Orissa. So, and also in Aurangabad and many areas of India. So there is a lot of building innovations and great structures that even stand today after hundreds of years. But beyond that, the technology innovations never happened until the 1700s. And that is when the 1760s, I believe, was when the steam engine was invented. It brought in transport, right? So transportation is a major breakthrough that happened. And you might have heard of the gold rush in California, where people travel from the East Coast all the way 4,000 miles to the West Coast, because they had these the ways of locomotives to transport, right? So and then came electricity, right? That's a big quantum jump. So we in our daily lives, do we worry about electricity? Of course, we have current cuts in India, but at the same time we assume. So when you move into a house, we assume that electricity is there. Of course, we need to pay the bills, but apart from that, it's called what they call aspect, right? It's an aspect that is covered. Network. Today, yes, right? All of us have networks. If you don't have a network at home, your phone can act as a mobile internet, right? So that is an aspect that happened in the last 30, 40 years, right? So the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency in the United States invented the internet, invented the network. And then, of course, companies like Cisco, 3Com, many other companies innovated. They made networks pervasive, right? So it's all over the place now, right? We don't need to have a wired network today. In fact, many of our 150 employees work using Reliance Jio. So there's no real wired network used by many IT knowledge workers in Tamil Nadu as of today, and probably the whole of India. So there's a lot of things that have happened in the last 400 years that have resulted in what we call the fourth industrial revolution, which is the connected world, right? So we are all connected. We can't live without data. We can't live without social networks, right? I mean, of course you can live, but then how much time do we spend every day on social networks? At least 1 or 2 hours on WhatsApp, and WhatsApp has become completely unalienable, right? So we have to have WhatsApp, otherwise we can't even survive. Even many businesses live and breathe WhatsApp. So next one, any questions so far? Okay, so this is another way of representing the same concepts I mentioned, right? So mainframe was the first early computers in the 50s, 60s. I remember using punch cards when I went to college in College of Engineering, Giddy. We would stay in the computer center for 2 hours to get addition or division program done, right? So a very simple program will take hours to execute, and we get the output only the next day. So some of you are lucky to born, or almost all of you are lucky to be born in the generation where you don't have to worry about such delays in computing output. And then, of course, towards the right of the slide, you can see all of the latest trends, right? So big data analytics, IoT, AI, genomics, quantum computing, those are coming, but these are some of the most popular technologies of today. So what happened the last year? All of us know we all suffered. And some people gained in a sense, right? For example, Zoom and Google Meet and these companies have phenomenally done well, e-commerce has done through the roof, right? Shopify went through an IPO and they made billions, right? So the investors in Shopify. So things like that, right? So who is the main transformation agent? COVID-19, right? In the last 2 years. And of course, that also has resulted in a phenomenal job market, right? So every one of you probably already have 4 hours in your pocket, right? So there is so much, the digital transformation has led to so many billions of dollars flowing into India and many other countries because of the need for digital transformation, right? Companies have realized, oh my God, I can't keep doing this paper and pencil kind of deal. I need to transform, otherwise I'm not going to exist. So which means, where does the money go? To IT. So this is a slide that I generally present, which talks about what we do in Salesforce, right? Salesforce is the 4th largest software company in the planet. And all they do, which my company is a service provider to Salesforce. So sales, service, marketing, almost all the aspects of information technology covered in this. This gives you an idea of what CRM means. So I just threw it in here. So first of all, branding. Okay, take your own college. Your college is a prime brand in the education space in India, right? I think rated among the top 10. So how did they get it, right? So of course, the core is education, your staff, your student body, so various things, right? But they also will definitely have digital touch points, right? They would have people. So you have quite a few competitors, right? In the same space, you could see many other, like SSN is in the same league, PSG is in the same league, right? There are a few of them. So how do you differentiate your campus, right? You would, I'm not talking specifically about your campus, but I'm connecting to your campus because I think that will connect with you better. But most campuses, I'll take another example. We have a few clients, I would say Crandall University in Canada. There is a client called International Business University in Canada. There's another client called Northern College. What do they do? For recruiting, the main thing they do is digital marketing. They use Pardot. Pardot is a technology it's a tool built by Salesforce. So what it allows, campus recruiting, right? Where do students go and peruse? They go to Facebook, they go to Instagram. So they have ads and they have forms to capture your likings. They have articles. They have articles to explain the recruiting process of students, mostly master's degree, I believe. And then they have the whole digital marketing built and automation around digital marketing built. So once you get into their CRM as a potential student for a master's degree course in Canada, they would take you they'll allow you to download their mobile app. They will allow you to get a free class or maybe a teaser class free for an hour. So there's a lot of techniques that campuses use, right? So that whole process of creating awareness, which is branding, and then consideration, purchase. So purchase means you're signing up for a course, you're signing up for the program, then you move to Canada to take a course, you have immigration possibilities. So many things they would put together, right? So all of this together is CRM. Any questions? So
no, sir, please carry on.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So this gentleman is a very interesting person that I have seen and observed. I don't know him personally, but he was an inspiration to me when I finished college in the 80s. He's still an inspiration today, right? So he finished his civil engineering degree in 1958. He's probably in his 80s today. And I saw him once at our college global meet in 2014. And no, I think it's 16, a few years back. The inspiration I took from him is he's a civil engineering student, right? He is like any one of you, probably doesn't have, did not have a computer science degree. He went to master's degree in Stanford and got to work with very, very prominent AI researchers. And he is there today because of his application of technology, of his academic excellence in what he learned way beyond his bachelor's degree, right? So anyone with a non-computer science degree can excel in computer science. He's a living example of that, and he's also a major contributor and a winner of the Turing Award. So I just wanted to highlight that before I enter into a little bit of not a class, but a few observations on AI. So I'm sure all of you would have brushed against AI in courses and in general knowledge and social media and all these things. We all experience AI. We have auto texting. When we type on any WhatsApp window, it gets you the right words. You don't have to type the whole length. You don't have to put TTY. It'll get you the full form in a few seconds. So you don't have to write scripting, right? So all this is AI. So I'll give you an example, right? Here you'll see in this chessboard example, you all would have definitely known Garry Kasparov, right? He was a very, very prominent world chess champion of the 90s and somewhat in the 2000s. Then Anand took over, and now it's Vishwanathan Anand from our own state took over. And then, of course, after that, it is Magnus Carlsen who is ruling the roost for chess. So in 1997, Garry Kasparov played a match against a computer, and the computer's name was Deep Blue. Okay, Deep Blue was made by IBM, and you all know Big Blue is a nickname for IBM. So IBM made that computer, and actually that computer defeated Mr. Kasparov. That was the first breakthrough that technology was when technology was able to beat a human and a human world chess champion. And then it took about 20 years later for a computer called Stockfish 8. So Stockfish 8 in 2016 defeated humans in a world chess championship. It's not a regular world chess championship, but it's kind of like a hybrid championship, and it won. So how it won? It was fed with all the algorithms, all the openings, all the greatest chess games played by all the greatest champions, hundreds of thousands of games, and it learned from it, and it won the match. And just about a year later, this same Stockfish 8 was defeated by a program called AlphaZero, which was not taught the openings. It was taught nothing except the techniques of the game, the moving techniques. It self-learned itself, right? The algorithms they used to create that computer or that computer program were way different, right? The algorithms had advanced so much, so they used modern machine learning techniques to actually teach that, to train that program, and it squarely beat Stockfish 8 by, I think, 72 to 28. There was not even one defeat. It defeated it 72 times, 28 draws. So that's unbelievable, right? So that is how technology has advanced and not just kept stagnant in the mathematics books. So that shows you how different thinking and creative algorithms have made a big impact in chess. So I'll just outline a few companies that you might be interested in following who are playing major roles in AI, right? And you know IBM, they have all of the major initiatives that there are underlying in many other technology companies related to AI. Apple is a forerunner. Facebook, Amazon AWS, Google is trying to do a automated car or automated vehicle. Tencent is a Chinese company which is in the forefront. I actually had the privilege of visiting them a couple of years back, and they had very phenomenal advances in AI. And like India is able to has been able to grow into the IT space in the last 20-25 years, China is trying to match the US in terms of AI technology, and I think they are having an edge now. So the right 5 companies are Chinese companies that you may not be following directly, but then they are very cutting edge technologies in AI. And these are the 3 major reasons that some of you might know. So 20 years back, computing power was very difficult. Right? We had old computers that existed then, which are inferior to the phones that we have in our pockets today. So computing power and storage have become very, very pervasive and cheap. And that's one of the reasons AI has made great forays, right? Improved algorithms, as I mentioned in the chess story. Data availability, right? Machine learning is due to data, right? You learn from data, large volumes and billions of lines of data. And as you know, what you type in WhatsApp is all used by Facebook to study, to learn, and to improve their algorithms and their machine learning. So talent-wise, right? There's a couple year dated information, but India is not even in the game, right? So as you can see, there is a lot of scope for AI talent to be absorbed into this world form at this moment of time. So I think I'll stop at this point with my technology talk. I'm going to give you some examples which could inspire you towards an entrepreneurial career. So I'm not going to talk about startups and details about how I built my company and stuff. If you have questions, you can ask them later. So these are very important points that I think any student, if you want to be an entrepreneur, want to make a difference in this world, should adopt, right? These are nothing new. These are all things that your parents have taught you, your teachers have taught you, and you have self-taught yourself, but I'm trying to emphasize them, that's all. So let me go one by one. Okay, persistence is a very important tenet. I'll give you a example. Just one second. Okay, so in the left side you see a machine. In the middle is actually the house of, can someone guess, of the person on the rightmost? Or at least can you guess who's the person on the rightmost is? He's one of the greatest inventors about 100 years back. His inventions are all over the place. One of the most prominent innovators in our planet so far. It's Thomas Alva Edison. And right beside him is a person called Edwin C. Barnes. Thomas Alva Edison, as you know, is known to have more than 40,000 inventions. And the electric bulb is one of his greatest innovations. He actually perfected it. He did not invent it. Someone else invented it. He took it further. I think he conducted about 10,000 experiments, about 10,000 attempts. He finally made it more viable for the marketplace. Electricity is attributed to him to some extent, at least electric devices, right? He invented many. The one on the left is a dictation machine, which is very similar to our voice recorder on our phone. So that's such a big machine that he invented. And the house is actually his house, his summer vacation house. His winter vacation house in Florida. It's a place called Naples, Florida. If you ever have a chance to go to Miami, Florida, you would go there and see this. Okay, so the story I want to tell you is this: Edwin C. Barnes gentleman wanted to work with Edison. Okay, Edison was a big name in the space in the United States, great innovator. So he wanted to work with him, not necessarily for him, right? He had some ideas, and he wanted to work and enhance Edison's business. And what happened? He even didn't have the money to go by train to Orange, New Jersey, where Edison lived at that time. And he went on a freight train, went to this gentleman, stepped up to his door in the morning and said, "Hey, I want to work with you." I said, "Edison, I don't know." Edison says, "I don't know you much. So the best I can do, I can give you some minimum wages and have you start work for me first." And then Edwin was working. Few months went by. There's not much happening. And then one day, this dictation machine came to the marketplace and it would not sell. So Edison had a good innovation, but he could not package it well. And Edwin went and said, "Give me the opportunity. I'll take it to the marketplace. I will devise a strategy, and this is what it is." And Edison was convinced. He deployed Edwin to the job of selling that machine or positioning it for the marketplace. And then it became a successful product, and Edwin became a popular person. In fact, in every one of those devices that were sold in 1912, it would say made by Edison and installed by Barnes. So that was Barnes's success. It didn't come overnight. It came out of persistence. And that is what I wanted to emphasize. Persistence, the ability to identify gaps and make them into opportunities, right? So he was watching what's happening, and he saw, oh my God, this guy has a gap in marketing this thing, and let me come up with a plan and fill that gap. So that is, this picture gives you a lot of lesson, I hope. I will take, and perspiration, right? Hard work. Let me go to the next slide. So this is about persistence. This is about learning, right? So as I told you initially, learning is lifelong. How the ability to solve problems and how many problems you can solve when you are in college or when you are in your job. Some areas that I mentioned, cloud, data analytics, JavaScript, those things. And then if you, let's say you are in an IT job, right? So initially, companies or whoever you work for will put you in a greenfield project, which means you have to do some work, do some fresh programs, right? So when it comes to maintenance projects, some people generally have a impression that a maintenance project is boring, someone else's code, but you learn a lot from existing implementations, re-engineer them, difficult problems. So the more difficult problems you pick, the more visibility you get, the more different problems you solve. For example, I had a gentleman who worked for me a few years back. He was a very outstanding programmer, but beyond that, he would get some projects from my clients, not even billable, it's out of his work. He'll do, hey, you know what, my client will come and say, okay, I want Ashwin to do this this video editing for me, right? Can you help me with that? And Ashwin will come and do in his evening time and get that done. So that is a skill that he grew when he was in college, maybe school, but then that helped him get a recognition in the company, not just doing the regular work, but go beyond expectations. That's a very important skill and ability that propels you through the structure of the company, right? So that's something that you could still nurture and identify your niche, right? You need to find what you're best at. You don't have to do it now, but learn to identify your niche, right? What you're best at. For example, if you're an IT, you have business analyst, you have QA, you have a developer, you have development lead, you have architect, right? How do you, what is your sweet spot, right? So as you work, as you study, you know what your strength is and try to play by your strength and fulfill or perfect your weaknesses, right? So you'll have weakness, let's say your weakness in presenting. You take opportunities to go and present and overcome those difficulties in life, right? So, and of course, train and mentor others, right? That's exactly what I'm doing today. So when you train and mentor others, you got to read up and you got to be up to date, right? You can't go and take an old slide and blabber. I spent at least 2 hours today to prepare for this session, and that's part of my learning. And I would suggest you take care of that, take similar approach. And another very important thing. So your current mentors are probably, if you're in the incubation program, you would have a professor or staff in the incubation program who is mentoring you, maybe someone from outside. So maybe a professor in your class, right? So you need to identify a mentor wherever you are, who puts you in the right track, drives you in the right direction. So when you go to a job, your boss matters, right? So if your boss is not very compatible with you, you should find a way to move to another team so that you have someone who actually supports you, someone who nurtures your abilities and gives you the right projects to take you forward, right? Alertness and responsiveness, right? So like, for example, out of the people who work with me, I like the people who are responsive, right? For example, if it's 10 p.m. in the night, I would respond to the client saying, Edwin, I understand you have an issue. Can we take care of it tomorrow, right? So you need to respond. So you need to have everything in your mobile app, right? You can't say, oh, I shut down my computer at 6 p.m. I'm gone. You have to respond. You don't have to work through the night, but you have to be responsive and communicative. That's what I mean. So intimate time off in a timely manner, right? So these are HR things. I don't want to bore you with this. So it's always work is always a compromise of time, scope, cost, and quality, right? You can't maximize all of this. It's very difficult, right? You can't do the quickest job, the highest scope at the minimum cost and absolute quality. It's a very tricky quadrangle that I hear, but you should try to maximize all these things. But I'm sure it's a very difficult proposition. So this gives you, this slide is kind of interesting. I'm going to show you some innovations that I have seen in the last 1 or 2 months, and that might trigger you in a certain angle. So as you can see, this is a smart cane, right? This is invented by a group of students in a lab directed by a professor in Stanford University. Just this came in the news only yesterday, right? So the smart, I mean, you might have heard of them, but I've seen canes being used by visually impaired people. There are 250 million visually impaired people in this world, right? At least in the US, there is a cane that is available at $6,000, weighs 30 pounds, right? That is very expensive and very difficult to carry around. So this one is open sourced. It's an article that I read, in fact, today. It includes GPS, like in an iPhone, right? An iPhone that was iPhone 12, I believe, has all of these things, right? It has GPS for location, accelerometer to determine velocity, magnetometer to determine the direction that this cane is moving or the human is moving, gyroscope to get the kind of the motion, right? So all these things are built into this thing, and it costs $400 to build one. And so I'm sure one of you can take this open sourced list of bill of materials that is published on the internet, take it to the Indian market here, right? So this is right there, an opportunity I think some of you can take. This is a more expensive opportunity, right? This is a company actually, Luft Car or Luft Car, I don't know how they pronounce it. It is made by, in fact, a couple of Indians. I forget the names of the people, but it's hydrogen powered. This also was published in my LinkedIn page today by a great leader in AI called Shanta Mohan. You might have heard of her. Shantha Mohan. So Shanta Mohan is a college senior, way senior of mine. She is going to release a book on AI, and she's a very well-known person in AI circles. She actually put it on her LinkedIn page today about this innovation, right? So it is hydrogen powered. It is both a car and a flight. So this is a tremendous innovation which needs a lot of venture capital, hundreds of millions of dollars to get to this level. But this is just one that struck my eye. The next one is actually a company that I invested in. A friend of mine called Arun founded this company. The innovation here, I mean, I've heard of people getting upset with Snapchat, right? Snapchat CEO made some remarks about Indians in a very negative way. So I'm going to do a competitive app that is like Snapchat. I've seen many entrepreneurs do that, right? I don't think that's the right direction, right? You don't like this guy, so you're copycatting what he has done. I want to build something like Instagram. Doesn't take you anywhere. But this is Joint is something which is a little bit like WeChat, right? You might have heard in China they have WeChat, right? Think of, let's say, yoga studio, right? Yoga studio needs to sign up customers. They need to do digital marketing. They need to WhatsApp. They need to chat. All these channels of communication coming into prospects who want to take a class. And then for e-commerce to do online, you can't do NEFT and IMPS, right? Because it's all disconnected. If you do NEFT, where does the thing go? It's got bank account. Then you need to figure out who paid for it. It's a big mess. So you need to have Razorpay, right? You need to have Google Sheet to maintain your customers, or you need to have Salesforce, or our friend Sridhar Vembu's Zoho or something like that, right? So all these things. So they're all disconnected. So Joint came up with something, with a concept saying, oh, we are going to build a platform that connects all these, and we're going to build a platform which connects experts, influencers, yoga shops, all these things, right? So that is innovation. This is a real innovation, right? This is actually an African story. I could not, I mean, this was actually published yesterday in the Tamil Hindu. I think in one of those pages where they have scientific innovations and children related content. it did not come in the main English Hindu, but it came in the Tamil Hindu. So I don't have the name of the person and things like that. So this is very interesting because this is useful in Africa where there's famine and you need to go thousands of feet to go get water, right? So they look at, so the same way as man learned from the birds to fly and create an airplane, similarly, this tree can go deep and using capillary action, moisture, various physics techniques that you have learned in school to pull the water up through the roots into the leaves and way up to the top of the tree, right? Well, how does that happen? It defies gravity. So obviously the physics. So someone came up with a device which can do things like a tree and flying into my area. So this is another invention, not as much as the one I previously mentioned, but the electric scooter that our friends in Oyo did just a couple of months back. They had a 1 lakh bookings in 24 hours and they created 10,000 jobs and their annual capacity is 2 million units, I think, in Hosur, right? So this is also an innovation. What is a key part of innovation? Electric vehicle, right? There's no fuel, no fossil fuel is getting used, but of course, electric vehicles have their own problems. You need to dispose them in a eco-friendly manner. So I'm sure there are innovations happening today, how to make eco-friendly disposal of lithium-ion batteries, which is a real problem, right? So one of you can be inspired to build something like that. This is one that happened in COVID times. Many government school students never had an opportunity to learn, while middle class and upper students could have all these iPads and things that they learned from. So a friend of mine runs a company called Aha Guru. Some of you would have heard. They are very well known for IIT training, IIT and competitive exam training. So they innovated in many ways to introduce these devices to underprivileged students who actually needed the education the most. So I have just a couple more slides left. Any questions so far? Okay, so I am throwing an example of success here, right? So not an example, the finest definition that I have known of success, right? All of us want to be successful for our own reasons, and all of us have different ways of achieving success. This is a long and winding quote, but the most inspiring to me, the one I like the most in the middle, it says to find the best in others, right? So if I succeeded, it's not the money I made, it's not the Mercedes I drive, it's not the Innova I drive, it's not the Rado watch or Rolex or whatever the hell I wear. What matters more is how many touch points and how many people that I have personally inspired to become greater than me. Okay, that is what I think is success, and it doesn't have to be yours, but I'll give you another example of success in this slide. Actually, the first example of success. I'm sure many of us know this gentleman in the middle. He runs Naturals, hundreds of salons that he built in the last 20 years. He belongs to a business family, but he built this solely, in my opinion. And it is not him that I want to reflect here. It's a girl on the rightmost in this picture who wrote this Facebook post barely 5 days back. Okay, what does she write? She writes about the inspiration that he gave her, the time and the mentorship, right? I have mentored some people. I've had them speak out to me saying that, call me and say or write to me saying that you inspired me, you helped me get past this chasm, all this, right? No one has written about me in social media. If this person has written this, and first I thought it's his daughter. Do I check to them? He said, no, it's not my daughter, which means a second person, and I'm sure there are a lot of people like this that he inspired and nurtured, and this is what is success in my opinion. There's another person I want to reflect upon here. The person in the middle, his name is Soma Sega. Okay, he went to college with me in College of Engineering, Guindy, about 30 years back. He was in our ECE class in CEG, and he went on to Microsoft way high. He was in, I think, employee 1,000 and something, right? And he grew to become a top 20 employee, one of the top executives who ran the Visual Studio program. All of you, I'm sure, know Visual Studio if you did IT, and it used to be one of the primary development tools. Today, it's VS Code is actually getting very popular among non-Microsoft programmers also. What he did was, I mean, he was a big achiever. In my opinion, he was not even an entrepreneur, but he moved on to a company called Madrona Venture Group, whose logo is in the middle. And Madrona Venture Group, through which he inspired 2 entrepreneurs to greater heights. That's what I wanted to reflect. This first person on the left, his name is Vetri Velu. His company was acquired by Microsoft this week. And he is, of course, ex-Microsoft, and he did a lot of things. But what he did was an employee engagement cloud application, right? It's a very niche thing, right? How to engage, how to take your company's objectives and align them with every employee. He built an IT application on the cloud with several hundred very prominent companies as his clientele. So Microsoft got the attention, and Madrona invested in his company, and he grew it big. Another story, this is from last week, Uncanny Vision. This is a company founded by 2 people. One of them was Navaneethan Sundaramurthy, who also went to my, in fact, all 3 people went to my college. That's probably part of the network. I'm sure you have people like this, very bright people like this in VIT also. So more than the people, Uncanny Vision is a company which is in the forefront of cloud, particularly vision, right? Computer vision. They have a cloud surveillance startup, right? So where is cloud surveillance applied? In stores, there are millions and millions of stores worldwide, right? So think of any stores, a big bazaar. There's a lot of stealing, right? Pilferage. How do you sense? You keep the camera, and from a control room, you watch. You need a lot of humans to watch every camera, right? So they built technology that could actually sense it and report in real time. I've seen other companies which do it, but these guys have done something special. They have ATM monitoring, they have toll automation, they have retail analytics, right? So you're in a retail store, whether you're happy as a customer in the counter or not, right? They could sense it. Perimeter security, gate security, so many things, smart parking, all these technologies using vision. And there's a company called Eagle Eye Networks from the US, which acquired this company only last week. So these are 2 very inspirational success stories, but the inspiration came from Somasegar, who invested in these companies through Madrona Venture Group. I'm sure there are so many stories in Native Lead also, but these are stories that I personally know. So I'll finish my presentation. Thank you for seeing my, hearing my thoughts. My WhatsApp number is there. If any of you wants to contact me, please message me. Do not call me on WhatsApp if you want to hear more about the stories or hear more about me. So I'll throw the floor to Q&A.